Autopilot. 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 Autopilot.
Naples ground 434100 heavy requesting pushback.
Autopilot. Autopilot.
434100 heavy pushback request accepted.
Autopilot. 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 Autopilot.
Naples ground Cessna November 219er Charlie Mike requesting pushback.
Autopilot.
Cessna November 219er Charlie Mike pushback request accepted.
Autopilot. 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 Autopilot.
Naples
Autopilot.
ground 434100 heavy requesting the end of pushback.
Autopilot.
43410 heavy request to in pushback received.
Autopilot.
Naples Airport information,
Autopilot.
Kilo 1500 Zulu. Wind calm.
Autopilot.
Visibility
Autopilot.
10.
Autopilot.
Sky condition. Few
Autopilot.
clouds at 2,700 feet. Few clouds at
Autopilot.
5,000 feet. Temperature,
Autopilot.
tree 1.
Naples ground Cessna
Autopilot.
November 219er Charlie Mike with Kilo ready to
Altimeter
taxi.
30.02.
Autopilot.
Cessna
Visual
November
runway
219er Charlie Mike taxi to an hold short
Landing and
runway
departing
14
runway
right. Taxiway Bravo cross runway 2
VFR
Charlie
aircraft,
cross
say
runway
direction of
23 Charlie.
flight.
Autopilot.
All aircraft read back on
Autopilot.
short instructions.
When ready.
Autopilot.
Advise controller on initial
Autopilot.
contact you have Kilo.
Autopilot. 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 Autopilot.
Taxi
Autopilot.
to and hold short runway 14
Autopilot.
using taxiway Bravo cross runway
Autopilot.
tree 2 Charlie cross runway 23
Autopilot.
Charlie Cessna 9er Charlie Mike.
Autopilot. Autopilot.
Cessna 9er Charlie Mike hold
Autopilot.
position caution under traffic.
Autopilot. Autopilot.
Cessna 9er
Autopilot.
Charlie Mike continue taxi.
Autopilot. 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 Autopilot.
Roger
Autopilot.
Cessna 9er Charlie Mike.
Autopilot. 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 Autopilot.
Naples Tower 43410 heavy ready for straight out
Autopilot.
departure at runway 14.
Autopilot. Autopilot.
Cessna 4 Lima uniform contact
Autopilot.
ground on 121.6.
Autopilot.
434-100 heavy wing com departing
Autopilot.
straight out approved.
Autopilot.
Cleared for takeoff runway 14.
Autopilot. Autopilot.
Naples Tower Airbus November
Autopilot.
140 Whiskey Hotel 11 miles
Autopilot.
west inbound visual runway
Autopilot.
14 approach.
Autopilot.
Airbus November
Autopilot.
140 Whiskey Hotel
Autopilot.
Naples Tower.
Altimeter
Altimeter 30.02 wind calm cleared visual runway
Autopilot.
14 approach.
Autopilot.
Cleared for
Autopilot.
takeoff runway
Autopilot.
434-100 heavy.
Autopilot. Autopilot.
Cleared visual
Autopilot.
runway 14 approach Airbus 0
Autopilot.
Whiskey Hotel.
Autopilot. 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 Autopilot.
121.6 Cessna 4 Lima
Autopilot.
uniform.
Autopilot.
Goodbye.
Autopilot. 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 Autopilot.
Airbus 0 Whiskey Hotel, wind calm, cleared to land runway 14. Cleared to land runway 14, Airbus 0 Whiskey Hotel.
Autopilot. 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 Autopilot.
434-100 heavy, leaving my airspace frequency change
Autopilot.
approved.
Autopilot. Autopilot.
Naples Tower
Autopilot.
434-100 heavy frequency change.
Autopilot. Autopilot.
Approach 434-100 heavy is type Cessna
Autopilot.
C-25C, 4
Autopilot.
miles north of Foxtrot Alpha
Autopilot.
Tree 7, 1,800
Autopilot.
feet. Request
Autopilot.
flight following.
Autopilot. Autopilot.
434-100 heavy
Autopilot.
approach. Squawk
Autopilot.
tree 662.
Autopilot. Autopilot.
Squawk Tree
Autopilot.
662 434-100 heavy.
Autopilot. Autopilot.
434-100 heavy radar contact
Autopilot.
5 miles northeast of Naples,
Autopilot.
1,700 feet.
Autopilot.
Altimeter 30.02.
Autopilot.
Roger
Autopilot.
434-100 heavy.
Autopilot. 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 Autopilot.
Naples
Autopilot.
Tower 434100 Heavy is 3 miles
Autopilot.
north, 500 feet with Kilo to
Autopilot.
land.
Autopilot. Autopilot.
43410 Heavy, Naples
Autopilot.
Tower. Altimeter
Autopilot.
30.02, wind calm, make straight in runway
Autopilot.
14.
Autopilot.
43410 Heavy, number 2
Autopilot.
for landing. Follow
Autopilot.
the Cessna Skyhawk on final.
Autopilot.
Wind calm clear to land runway 14.
Autopilot. Autopilot.
Cessna 4
Autopilot.
Lima uniform number 3 for
Autopilot.
landing. Follow the
Autopilot.
Cessna C25C on
Autopilot.
final. Wind calm
Autopilot.
clear to land runway 14.
Autopilot. Autopilot. Autopilot.
Clear to land
Autopilot.
runway 14 number 3 Cessna 4
Autopilot.
Lima uniform.
Autopilot. 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 Autopilot.
43410 Heavy, acknowledge last transmission.
Autopilot. 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 Autopilot.
43410 Heavy, please acknowledge.
Autopilot. Autopilot.
43410 Heavy, turn next taxiway.
Autopilot. Autopilot.
43410 Heavy, contact ground on
Autopilot.
121.6.
Autopilot. Autopilot.
Going to 121.6 434.100 Heavy.
Autopilot. 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 Autopilot.
Naples Tower exit jet tree 871 3 miles east inbound visual runway 14 approach.
Autopilot.
Exit jet tree 87 Naples Tower.
Autopilot.
Altimeter tree
Autopilot.
0.02, wind calm
Autopilot.
cleared visual runway 14 approach.
Autopilot. 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 Autopilot.
Cleared visual runway
Autopilot.
14 approach exit jet tree
Autopilot.
87.
Autopilot. Autopilot.